Welcome back. So, we will continue with our previous discussion, and we were discussing different models of heat transfer during nucleate boiling. So, the present model in which we are interested in is vapor liquid exchange model. So, as the mechanism has been described to you, a bubble as it changes its shape and size, it acts as a micro pump. When it expands, it pushes fluid. When it contracts or leaves the surface, so it induces fluid motion towards the center of the bubble. Okay. So, with this we can have as I have told that we can estimate the liquid flow involved in the pumping process, and what is the change of temperature this liquid will undergo, then the change of enthalpy and heat transfer we can calculate. Assuming that the bubble is a hemispherical bubble and the fluid movement associated with this is also hemispherical is also of the same volume as of the bubble. So, we can write the equation for heat transfer. See, the equation for heat transfer will be, sorry, this is red one, Qs is equal to rho L C P L 2 pi by 3 R max cube multiplied by your T W plus T L by 2 minus T L multiplied by F. So, this is the heat flux, Qs is the heat flux, rho L is the density of the liquid, Cpl is the specific heat. This is coming from the bubble volume, R max is the radius of the bubble at its departure, T wall, Tw is the T wall, temperature of the wall, Tl is the bulk liquid temperature, and F is the frequency of this bubble departure. So, with this we will simplify it to get rho L Cpl 2 pi by 3 half of Tw minus Tl into F. So, this is what we will get. Now, this gives the heat transport due to one bubble, all right. If there is one bubble, the volume of one bubble we have considered. So, this gives the heat transport due to one bubble. Now, if there are number of bubble and the number of bubble from where I will get, we will get it from the number density of the nucleation site. So, with some sort of a factor like that, we can multiply to get it over the entire surface N A dash, that is that gives us the density of the nucleation site. So, with this then we will have an estimate of the heat flux due to boiling. Now, this expression you please see with bit carefully. First thing here, no latent heat is involved. This is one way of looking into the problem. I am not telling that this is the correct way of looking into the problem, but no latent heat is involved. So, basically this is some sort of a single phase correlation applied for boiling process. Second thing, there is a very important observation, this we have already mentioned and again I am mentioning, that Qs is directly proportional to Tw minus Tl. So, it is directly proportional to Tw minus Tl, that is the temperature difference between the wall and the bulk of the fluid. But all the experiment shows that this relationship is not reflected by the experimental data. One example can be given that let us say there is a 300% increase in TW minus TL, the heat flux that increases merely by 15 to 20%. So, that does not reflect the way the formula has been made, whether it is correct or not, that is not reflected by the experimental observation. Then people could see that as TW minus TL increases, or rather as TW increases, degree of superheat or rather degree of subcooling that increases. So, a few phenomena occurs which is not visible from this equation at the first glance. What happens? As the degree of subcooling increases, as the liquid bulk is more subcooled, we will have the departure diameter of the bubble smaller and smaller. This experience we are having in any case of boiling. So, even if you heat oil over heat water over a pan, you will find that it is when it is subcooled, the bubbles are leaving the pan surface, heated pan surface at a smaller diameter. As the pan surface temperature increases and the subcooling of the bulk of the liquid decreases, then only you get bigger and bigger bubble. As you go towards the saturation, you will get bigger and bigger bubble. So, this is increasing, but R max will decrease. Okay. And also what has been found that frequency changes, the bubble release frequency changes with the temperature difference. So, something is increasing, other factors are decreasing, so they compensate each other. So, that is why we do not get a direct increase of QS as TW minus TL is decreasing, increasing. So, this is one of the reason. Another thing, as I have already mentioned, that this is also important. So far, we are looking into the bubbles. Let us say there is one nucleation site, we are looking into bubbles. And the mechanism of heat transfer due to the movement of the bubble, that we are concentrating. So, basically this is mechanism 1 for heat transport, and so far what we have done, we have concentrated on that. But between the bubble there are spaces where also the hot surface is in contact with fluid. So, there will be some other mechanism of heat transfer which we are not bothering at all. So, this we can call mechanism 2. So, some people have also suggested that let us consider these two and then make some sort of a improved model. So, if I try to do that, what we will have is this. Heat flux that is equal to AMC by A total QMC plus ANC by A total QNC. Let me explain what it is. We can assume that there are two mechanisms working side by side. One is micro convection, which I have called the mechanism 1. See, the bubbles are moving, so there is some sort of micro convection. Even one can involve the latent heat of vaporization in this mode of heat transport. And then in between the bubble there is solid area which is in contact with liquid. So, there natural convection will take place. So, one is micro convection and one is natural convection. Now, natural convection, this is more or less constant, because if the temperature difference remains constant, then what is the heat transfer due to natural convection, that is also constant. But micro convection, a bubble grows, then departs. So, there is a cycle. So, micro convection, this is dependent on time. So, micro convection, if I want to calculate the rate of heat transfer, so we have to do it by integrating over the entire period of cycle. Natural convection rather is straightforward. So, with this particular, with this assumption, this particular formula has been written. So, total amount of heat transfer is the average heat transfer during due to micro convection multiplied by area which is responsible for micro convection, and this has been divided by the total area, plus there is another mode of heat transfer by natural convection, the area which is involved in natural convection heat transfer divided by the total area. So, this is how we will get the heat transfer from a boiling surface. Okay. So, this of course is not a typical model, but it gives a corrective measure. Suppose we want to do the boiling heat transfer prediction, it gives some sort of a corrective measure. As I have told that there are many models of boiling heat transfer. Another model I like to discuss, which is bit interesting, may not be very successful in predicting boiling heat transfer, but it is bit interesting, that is known as inverted stagnation flow model. Inverted stagnation flow model. What is inverted stagnation flow model? Let us say there is a surface. Now, stagnation flow means if the flow is directed towards it. So, if the flow is directed towards it, then what will happen? The streamlines will be like this. If we reverse the direction of the streamlines, we will get inverted stagnation flow model. This is a stagnation flow. Why we are considering inverted stagnation flow model? It is like this, that a bubble column is there. So, bubbles are leaving like this. There is another bubble column. So, bubbles are leaving like this. So, as the bubbles are leaving like this, as I have told that it will draw fluid. So, it will draw fluid like this. So, you can see that this is reverse of stagnation flow, and we can assume that this is your S, the distance between these two are S. So, we can think of some sort of idealization. This is your y, this is your r direction, and this is your delta y. This is your delta y. Okay. Delta y is the outer edge of the thermal boundary layer. Okay. So, with this, for laminar axisymmetric stagnation flow, for laminar axisymmetric stagnation flow, we are having H R K L liquid conductivity is equal to 1.32 U infinity R by nu L to the power 0.5 P R L to the power 0.33. So, this is your correlation for laminar axisymmetric stagnation flow, and then U infinity is equal to A R. A is a constant and R is your radius. Okay. And here we are assuming that the bubble columns are distributed in regular array, and the radius of this one, the zone which is affected by a bubble column. So, that is given by S by 2. So, that means R is equal to S by 2 in the present case. So, what we will get from this particular equation? We will get from this particular equation H is equal to 1.32 K L by S A S square by nu L to the power 0.5 and P R L to the power 0.33. So, this is what I will get. Now, what again one can do, one can bring N A dashed, which is the density of the activated nucleation site, and with that one can write H is equal to 1.32 K L N A dashed to the power 0.5 A by N A dashed multiplied by P R L to the power 0.33. Now, based on some experimental data, A by N A dashed okay. So, ultimately H is equal to Q T W minus T saturated is equal to 61.3 P R L to the power 0.33 K L N A dash to the power 0.5. So, this kind of a relationship has been given. Okay. So, this is one model, again a different kind of approach has been taken for analyzing boiling heat transfer. Now, let me tell you a few things. Of course, another model let me discuss without any mathematics, and then we will go back for a general discussion of all the models which I have described so far. See, so far whatever model we have described, all of them assume that some sort of a I mean many of them assume that some sort of mass exchange is there along the interface, but the exact way the mass transfer is taking place, mass evaporation is taking place, none of these models they concentrate on it. There is another class of model, those are known as micro layer evaporation models micro layer evaporation models. So, in the micro layer evaporation model, sometimes I have discussed this also, but let us recapitulate. The vapor is assumed to have some sort of hemispherical shape like this. The vapor is assumed to have some sort of an hemispherical shape like this. And here we are having liquid, but the liquid here near the vapor base or up to this point depending on the size of the vapor bubble is high temperature. And here of course, T wall is the highest temperature. So, from this T wall heat will be transferred and due to conduction only. So, through this micro layer, and as it is transferring, so from here your evaporation will take place. This is your evaporation. So, that is why this is called a micro layer evaporation model, and the bubble will grow large enough and then it will leave the surface. So, this is basically valid for inertia controlled growth. And a full bubble cycle can be described based on this micro layer evaporation. And then what can be done, that the entire amount of heat transfer by some integration process one can also find out from this micro layer evaporation. So, there are model based on this micro layer evaporation, and part of the some experimental data can be predicted very well by this micro layer evaporation model also. This is bit recent model, all the models which I have described, those are bit earlier model, this is bit recent model. So, this model is also applicable. Now, let me tell you, let me have so many models I have told. So, let me have some sort of overview of the models. Now, one thing we have to understand, that none of these models are some sort of a master key, that for all situations of boiling we will have a good result or good prediction from these models. So, this is first thing we have to remember, that not a single model will predict all the boiling data very effectively. There are certain models which predict the boiling data of water or aqueous fluid very well. There are certain other models which predict the data for the dielectric fluid like refrigerant very well. Now, in general, the Rosenau correlation and the variation of Rosenau correlation, that gives a good prediction. So, one model which I can recommend is that the first correlation, your Rosenau correlation, first correlation what I have told. So, that is the model which I can recommend, to start with. To start with, I can recommend Rosenau model. And its variations, there are certain variation of this model. Second type of model which are also very showing good predictability, that is your micro layer evaporation model. Again, if we make a comparison between these two models, Rosenau model is much simpler. This involves number of steps, but even then the micro layer evaporation model is good. The experimental evidence which shows that this is proportional to two very important parameters, Na dash to the power A and Tw minus T saturated to the power B. There will be of course some numerical constants etc., but for any boiling experiment this type of relationship is obtained. Okay. Out of this, it is very difficult to predict Na dash, that is the nucleation site density. Nucleation site density, it is very difficult because it is a material property. I mean it cannot be determined so easily. Some people have suggested that Tw minus Tsat with heat flux, there could be a good estimate if we take B is equal to 3, but again these are not universally applicable. In some experiment we will see that these are applicable, in some other experiment this is not applicable. Then the final what can we say, the final message which I like you to take, that boiling heat transfer, it is so complex phenomena that none of the models which we have developed, which have been developed so far, are very suitable. If known fluid, known surface conditions are there, then it is better to apply the Rosenhau model. If you can give more time for the calculation etc., then micro layer evaporation model is also good. Otherwise, if it is a totally unknown kind of a fluid, the surface is non-wetting, it is not a very good wetting surface. So, in those cases probably the experimental result one has to rely on. If we want to do, if we want to apply any kind of prediction, we should be ready that there should be a very large amount of factor of safety or factor of ignorance for any design calculation. Okay. Then lastly, what I can tell, that CFD modeling are becoming important tool for the prediction of boiling heat transfer, particularly nucleate boiling heat transfer. Now, the limitation of CFD modeling is becoming important, but the limitations are, let me tell you limitations. What are the limitations? First limitation is that so far only one bubble or 2 or 3 bubbles have been modeled. Because of restriction of the computational time. So, we cannot model very large number of bubble, that is one restriction. Second restriction is that variation of scale. Variation of scale means, as I have told, that we have got a bubble. So, here if we see, the liquid layer is very thin and even it can go to the molecular level, and then from the molecular level we have to go to the level of the bubble, and not only bubble, we have to take a some amount of surrounding fluid. So, there is a variation of scale. So, unless we take the multi-scale approach, this simulation cannot be done properly. And last but not the least is that certain issues for which the physics is not known, like your density of nucleation site. So, we do not know how this can be this can be fixed or this can be assigned to your simulation or model. Then the process of nucleation, this physics is also not known fully. So, that is why the if we also want to do CFD, we have got large number of limitations and we are handicapped with that, but it is showing some sort of promise. Maybe in coming future one can have more success with CFD modeling. So, this brings us to the end. If we again look back, that we were in the boiling curve delta T W. So, somehow this portion we have done relatively with ease. The portion where you are having fully developed nucleate boiling, we cannot do much, but probably with some correlation we can tackle it. So, we have come to this point. This is your critical heat flux point or maximum heat flux point. The critical heat flux point or maximum heat flux point is very important, because in most of the industrial situation we operate only on the nucleate boiling regime. So, in the nucleate boiling regime, if we operate, then we have to know where we have to terminate, and we have to terminate at your critical heat flux. So, the maximum amount of heat flux to which your boiling system can be subjected to is your critical heat flux. So, this has to be known, and if we violate this, then we there is a possibility that we may go directly here and there will be a high rise of temperature. So, people have spent lot of time in the determination of critical heat flux or maximum heat flux. So, critical heat flux or maximum heat flux. Okay. Critical heat flux or maximum heat flux. Now, critical heat flux or maximum heat flux, if we see that the physical mechanism. So, physical mechanism is something like this. There is a heated surface. First we will see isolated bubble, then what will happen as the heat flux is increasing. So, what will happen, there will be large number of nucleation sites and neighboring bubble, they will actually come very closer. So, ultimately you can get this kind of things. So, let us say this is your liquid and this is some sort of a vapor column, or this is your vapor. Okay. So, this is some sort of a vapor column or vapor jet, we will get this one. So, we will get also something like this side by side. So, this is also vapor, and here you will have the liquid. Okay. And also you will have liquid somewhere over here. So, this is your liquid. Now, certain thing we will find out. Now, if I the physical observation, if I summarize it, it will be like this. First, what we will find out, the as the heat flux increases, adjacent bubbles will coalesce. Then we will get vapor columns formed. Vapor columns are formed. Okay. So, the vapor column, we can see the vapor is moving in the downward direction, vapor is moving in the upward direction as it is a lighter fluid. Then the liquid, that has to come in the downward direction. The liquid will be coming in between two vapor columns, let us say the liquid has to come in the downward direction. Okay. So, vapor column formed, liquid moves in the downward direction, okay. Then what we will find, as the liquid moves in the downward direction and vapor moves in the upward direction, as the vapor velocity increases, liquid may be taken up. Okay. So, instead of moving in the downward direction, the liquid may be taken up. If this happens, then what? If this happens, if liquid is taken up, then the surface is not getting a replenishment of the liquid. Okay. Then obviously, the heat transfer rate will fall. So, the second phase, what we can write as the nucleation site density increases, there is a packing of vapor bubble over the surface. Over the surface there is a packing of vapor bubble. Okay. Earlier isolated bubbles were generating, they are leaving, now there will be a packing of vapor bubble over the surface. Okay. Now, the vapor leaves the surface in the form of jets arranged in a regular array. Okay. Now, let us think of slightly different figure. So, this is some sort of a vapor jet or vapor slug, let us say. So, how it is sustained? This is sustained by the evaporation which is coming from here, because that is the place where it is having connection with liquid. Now, this vapor jet, it cannot grow infinitely, somewhere this vapor slug will break and leave the surface. Now, what is happening till it leaves the surface, it is getting the supply of vapor from this liquid. Now, before it reaches the critical mass for leaving the surface, if the liquid shown over here by this red dot, they are dried up, then what will happen? A vapor patch will form. Suppose in this way this vapor slug leaves, another vapor slug blows, then there is no dry patch. There are a number of stems, vapor stems, that is true, but even then the surface is having some contact with liquid. But before this vapor slug leaves, if this liquid dries up, liquid film dries up, then what is happening? The formation of a vapor patch or vapor blanket. So, this will give rise to your transition boiling. This will give rise a shift from the nucleate boiling to the transition boiling, and this is known as, where it will happen, this is known as critical heat flux. So, let me tell. So, number 4, vapor slugs are fed by the stems separated by liquid film. If the film dries up, a vapor blanket will form. So, we will go to transition boiling. Okay. So, this could be also a mechanism for your critical heat flux to take place. Now, there are different models for prediction of critical heat flux. So, different models for the prediction of critical heat flux. First one is known as hydrodynamic model, and second one the microlayer model. Of course, the result of both the models, there are a lot of similarities. Okay. So, let me explain what is microlayer model and what is, first let us start with the hydrodynamic model. Hydrodynamic model, boiling heat transfer, the contribution of this Russian scientist Kuta-Taylor-Jay, his contribution are many. So, he has first postulated certain thing, drawing the similarity between some phenomena in chemical engineering and this critical heat flux. Now, so what he has told that flooding in a column, what is flooding in a column? So, suppose we have got a tube. Okay. So, in this tube we have got liquid injection from the side. So, if you have got liquid injection from the side, so liquid will fall through the over the wall, liquid will fall like this, and then from the bottom you are supplying a gas. So, the gas will move in the upward direction. So, now what we are getting? We are getting that liquid flow is there in the downward direction and side by side gas flow is there in the upward direction. So, if the gas velocity is small, then we will have a smooth liquid film, but if the gas velocity is high, then you will have some sort of an undulation or ripple on the liquid film. So, this is your liquid. And this is your gas. So, we will have some sort of a undulation in the liquid film, and when the gas velocity is very high, then what will happen? The gas will try to push the liquid in the opposite direction. So, this phenomenon is known as flooding, and this is due to some instability which is known as Kelvin-Helmholtz instability. This is due to Kelvin-Helmholtz instability. So, Kuta-Taylor-Jay, he could see or he could postulate that the critical heat flux phenomena and the flooding phenomena, it has got certain similarity, and he has first given some sort of relationship, not based on very rigorous mathematics, but based on some sort of logic, the logic which I have told already. So, based on this logic, he could give some relationship. The relationship which he has given is this: Q max, that is equal to C k rho g to the power half H f g multiplied by G rho f minus rho g to sigma to the power 1/4. Okay. So, this is the relationship which he has given, and C k, obviously this is an empirical constant. So, C k is 0.131, and this has been not obtained by any theory, this has been obtained by fitting the data. So, Kuta-Taylor-Jay was the first person then to establish some sort of a similarity, or to point out some sort of a similarity between the flooding phenomena and the phenomena of critical heat flux. Then later on, work done by Joubert, and after that Lienhard and Dheer. Lienhard and Dheer. Joubert is again very very famous for his contribution in boiling heat transfer, and Leonhard is also very famous for his contribution in boiling heat transfer. Dheer is of Indian origin. V.K. Dheer, he has also contributed very substantially for the theory of boiling heat transfer. He is of Indian origin. So, Coutard-Delarge's theory, then Joubert's modification, and then again the work of Leonhard and Dheer, both are on the same line. So, all these are for the development of your hydrodynamic theory of critical heat flux. Now, this hydrodynamic theory of critical heat flux, it depends on two kinds of instabilities. One is a Taylor wave type phenomena, another is your Kelvin Helmholtz instability. Now, what is Taylor instability, or Taylor, sometimes it is also called Rayleigh-Taylor type of instability? It is like this, that there are two fluids from the stability criteria, always the heavier fluid tries to be at the bottom and the lighter fluid tries to be at the top. But in case of a boiling process, what is happening? Suppose this is a horizontal surface. This is a horizontal surface, here the bubbles are forming. The bubbles are forming, but let us say somehow they cannot immediately leave the surface. Then what is happening? We are having some sort of a vapor, and at the top we are having liquid. So, we are having a lighter liquid below and a heavier liquid at the top. So, obviously, it is an unstable situation. Okay. Unstable situation means what we will get? Suppose we have got some sort of a vapor layer and some sort of a liquid. So, obviously, we will not get a smooth surface, we will get undulated surface. Okay. I think time is up. So, we have to continue next day. So, next day we will continue from this point.